2023 McLaren Artura, the baby McLaren, powered by a twin turbocharged V6 hybrid powertrain, which you can now get for under $200,000 on the used market. I'm going to tell you today how it drives on the canyons. So we're powered by a 120 degree, which by the way is the world's first dry sump 3-liter V6 twin turbocharged engine, making 577 horsepower, 431 pound-feet of torque, plus one electric motor with 94 horsepower and 166 pound-feet of torque, for a total peak output of 671 horsepower and 531 pound-feet of torque. That's made it to an 8-speed DCT, and by the way, it has no reverse gear. This has McLaren's first e-LSD on the rear axle, because all the other models, including the 750S and 765 LT that I just drove on the same road earlier this morning, have an open diff and they use brake vectoring instead. This has a 7 kilowatt hour battery, which is good for 11 to 19 miles of EV range, and it is a plug-in hybrid. Now, of course, it's a hybrid, so it will weigh a little bit more. We're weighing in at 3,450 pounds, compared to the 750S, 765 LT are right around 3,000 instead. This has a 181 carbon fiber monocoque, aka the MCLA, that's the McLaren Carbon Lightweight Architecture, which has an integrated compartment for the hybrid battery, and it's lighter than the prior version. We have double wishbone in the front and multi-link in the rear, compared to double wishbone in the rear for, again, the 750S and the 765 LT. This does not have the hydraulically linked adaptive dampers that you see in the 765 and the 750S. This instead has more traditional coil and spring damper setup with anti-roll bars, whereas the hydraulically linked system doesn't even need sway bars, but this does have adaptive dampers. We have carbon ceramic brakes with 6-piston front and 4-piston rear brakes. MSRP for these around $240,000 to $290,000, but again, market value now is $180,000 to $190,000. And sub 200K for a McLaren sounds to me like a pretty good deal, but let's see how it drives. By the way, gotta love these flying buttresses. I think it's always so cool. You can also see quite a bit into this engine compartment. You can see the V6. And like a proper McLaren, our doors go up. This example has a very interesting bright blue leather interior. The blue is actually pretty similar to this Neptune blue on the GR86. I had a GR86 in the exact same color. So, always kind of confusing when you start these hybrids because the engine doesn't start. But the car's now on. We have this tacked on display, which this is a newer car, but it already looks so dated. Look at the size of these bezels. You have this knob right here. This looks like a even first generation iPad, and I guess it gets the job done though, right? You have your HVAC, no physical controls for that. Similar drivetrain control layout as in other McLarens, and this display plus the mode buttons here is actually the same or very similar to the 750S. It's their newer generation, whereas the 765 LT and the 720S had the display that it kind of flips, and also the toggles for your drive modes. So interestingly, the seating position here is actually a little bit different. In the 765 and the 750, you can get the steering wheel a little bit closer to you, and then your feet feel further away. And not a problem here, but I did actually prefer that, especially for taller drivers, in the 750 and 765. I'm 6'1", 180 pounds. In terms of drive modes, we're gonna go away from electric. Oh, and then she comes to life. We're gonna go to track for the actual powertrain, and let's start with track as well on the handling for the adaptive dampers. And I tried pressing the paddle to go to first. It denied that, so we got to go to drive first. This is not a Ferrari. And we already have our nose lift up. Wow! Even though this is the baby McLaren, it is still a lot of performance here. I love that we still have hydraulic steering, so the steering is absolutely chattering away. It is not just telling me what is happening on the road, it's as if I was reading Braille. It is so high resolution, maybe not quite as high precision as the 750S, but we're really splitting hairs here. Phenomenal modern hydraulic steering rack. And the dampers are actually a little bit, is a bit over damped. Let's dial this back into, let's go comfort on the dampers. Yeah, much better. One thing that I instantly appreciate, you can feel that there is a bit more weight, which is not ideal, but I can appreciate the cost of that weight because the trade-off is now with a hybrid system, we don't have turbo lag, and with the 750S and the 765LT, which have 4-liter V8s that have twin turbos, you do get notable lag. But here, with the electric motors, you can actually fill that torque, and you have a much more immediate throttle response. We still have the carbon chassis, so incredible rigidity to the vehicle, and that means that there's no real corruption, right? Everything that's happening, you can feel every corner, you can feel the car letting the suspension do the work, not the chassis itself. And let's give you a pull. Still so traction limited. The 750S with around 740 horsepower was also incredibly traction limited, as you can imagine. Now, if I'm being honest, you do actually notice a bit of a difference with regards to the suspension. So there's trade-offs here. This car is going to be half the price used market value versus something like a 750S, and even less so versus a 765LT. And there's pros and cons. So you do feel there's added weight here, but this is a smaller vehicle overall. You don't have the same level of power, but I do not mind that at all because 750 horsepower is already a handful. You can't even use it on the street when a car weighs 3,000 pounds. So I like that this has the electric motors to fill that torque. You can argue that the sound of this V6, there are other V6 hybrids, including the NC1 NSX, that I do think sounds better from inside the cabin. But the thing that really outshines in the 750S and 765LT is actually the suspension, because those have this incredible, super advanced hydraulic interconnected system. And this is not bad, but when you compare it, oh, interesting, we actually can feel, we can actually get a bit of rotation on throttle. Let's go, ELSD! Having to give a bit of counter steer. Now in the 765 and 750, couldn't do that because we just had an open diff at the back with brake torque vectoring. But going back to the suspension here is actually really good. In comfort versus track, large magnitude shift, not as large as in the hydraulic system, but it's still very good suspension. And again, you can feel the suspension doing everything, the chassis itself, super rigid. But when you compare this car to the 765 and the 750S, after having just got out of that on the same road, it just makes you appreciate how advanced that hydraulic suspension system is, because it is truly incredible. The level of body control, ride comfort, lack of crashiness, it is truly top tier stuff. Incredibly impressive from a technological perspective. And that's really the one thing that I think feels quite notably a downgrade, but this is still excellent. Like if you compare this to any other street car, this is great suspension. It's just compared to the other McLaren systems, which are, again, top like S tier stuff, does this feel that, okay, I am making a compromise by getting this McLaren versus one of those. But everything else about it, I mean, the performance, even though you're not making 700 plus, more than 500 horsepower in a car that weighs sub 3,500 pounds is more than enough. It is a handful on the street. You're not gonna find yourself wanting for more. Beautiful steering, again, not quite to the same degree in terms of the signal to noise ratio and the precision as in that 750S, although keep in mind, alignment, tire setup, etc. can also change that. So again, I'm really just nitpicking on the steering. It is really excellent, just maybe half a notch below the 750S. Overall, the inputs on this car, because you have a modern McLaren where they clearly prioritize inputs, are phenomenal. I mean, the steering, the ratio, the precision, the accuracy, the weighting, the feedback, the 4 dimensions of steering that I talk about in most of my reviews are excellent. We have this F1 style paddle, one single carbon piece that you can either pull here or push to downshift. Same thing here. It operates in the reverse when you push it. And it has this nice, crisp actuation. Feels very premium. It's not too long of a throw and kind of floppy like even the 488 Pista Spider that I drove earlier today. And it's steering wheel mounted, not column mounted, and I am gonna die on the hill that steering wheel mounted makes a lot more sense than column mounted. Even the, the communication you feel through the seat, because the chassis again is so stiff. The brake pedal, I would argue, is the one thing that it feels really good when you get used to it, but it has a little bit of a learning curve. So just like in the other McLarens, the 750S and the 765 LT, it requires a bit more travel for it to start building, but there's no like dead spot. It's just a slow, gradual build. One more pull. All these McLarens are so traction limited. They have so much performance. I mean, here's the thing. The Artura, with a hybrid powertrain, it's going to sound like a downgrade versus a V8 twin turbo in the 765 and in the 750S. And on paper, yes, it makes less power, but you have much better throttle response. I would argue that neither engine, neither powertrain actually has phenomenal sound, but the delivery here is far more linear over the twin turbocharged V8 in its big brothers. So that's actually, some would argue, possibly an upgrade, because 500s versus 700s horsepower, you're already making so much power at this weight that the power to weight ratio is already more than enough for the street, and you can't even use all that additional power from the 750S and the 765 LT on the street. It's just bananas. So you could argue that the more immediate throttle response might be something that many people would prefer. Again, the only real downgrade here is going to be the suspension, which is already great compared to other cars, but you're paying half the price. And if that's the only main drawback, which again is not even a huge drawback, because it's not saying that the suspension is bad, it's just saying that the 765 and the 750S is so far advanced above anything else that this feels like a relative downgrade. But compared to just about any other car, this still has great suspension. It's just the more traditional adaptive dampers that you're used to. You're getting essentially 80% of the driving experience and pleasure and performance for less than half the price, at least used market. But here's the thing, would I actually buy one of these? And if my budget was $200K on the used market, would I go with this or something like a 991.2 GT3, which is also very similar in terms of used value? And honestly, it's hard to say. I'd argue that, so the Artura, clearly more exotic, more special, much better rigid chassis. You have a double wishbone in the front as well, whereas in the 911 GT3, at least the 991.2, it's McPherson strut in the front. Both of these cars have multi-link at the rear. The inputs here, like the actual steering feedback and overall precision, the inputs here, I'd argue, are mostly better, except I do prefer the brakes in something like a modern GT Porsche, which have a bit more firmness and immediacy, greater pressure, and less travel. Whereas the McLarens, when you first hop in, you feel like, oh, slow down, and then you have to really get into the brakes. But it has that beautiful high resolution given the travel. And keep in mind, the amount of travel in the brake pedal is less important. It's more of a preference thing. It's only more important if you had a manual transmission. Obviously, no manual in this car. So doing things like heel toe is not relevant, and therefore the brake pedal, the amount that it travels is not super important either. The nose lift here, by the way, I don't know why it's so slow. The 750S right here has a much faster nose lift system. This feels just as slow as the 765 LT. Don't feel good about that. Let's actually go up here. So again, going back to this 991.2 GT3 versus Artura hypothetical, we're going to go into reverse with just the electric motor, no gear, no input from the engine. The thing you have to keep in mind is that the ownership experience, part of it is just the driving experience, the driving pleasure. And I think, again, the chassis here, the steering, the inputs, top tier, really phenomenal stuff. But what I've heard is that the Artura, as an example, in particular, is going to have more, British, handmade kind of downsides in terms of reliability and things just working properly. I don't hear any squeaks and rattles. This car feels very well built. but things like the infotainment not working properly or having these issues that you don't see in a mass-produced car like a Porsche. The Porsche is really the Rolex of the car world. You have this mass-produced, very well-engineered product, which may not be the top tier in the same way that McLaren is the top tier in certain ways. You get into a 720 or a 765 LT or a 750S, and you just feel the technological gap between a 911 GT3 and one of those cars. The carbon tub, the hydraulic suspension, etc. And the McLarens, I think, can offer a technically superior driving experience, but again, they trade blows. The Porsche has a much more special 4-liter flat-six engine that really howls, and in this day and age is becoming more and more rare, a naturally aspirated engine like that. Although this car has more power with its hybrid system, right? So it's really hard to choose a single winner, but the Artura, for what it is, I think at less than $200,000, you get 80+% of the driving experience of a 765 LT or 750S, and it is truly impressive behind the wheel, even without that trick hydraulic system and its bigger brothers. But my friends, let me know what you think of the McLaren Artura. Big shout out to the owner, Joel, for letting me review his car. Leave a comment down below. What do you think? Would you go with this or a 911 GT3 of the 991.2 generation? And if you want your car reviewed, visit us on JubbalAndCars.com. Fill out the form on the homepage. Much love, my friends, and I'll see you all in that next one.